The sound of ripping paper echoed through our kitchen, each tear feeling like a knife through my heart. I watched helplessly as my mother shredded my Harvard acceptance letter, her face twisted with a mixture of disgust and satisfaction. "Girls don't need education," she spat, letting the pieces flutter to the floor like confetti. "Your brother is the one who needs to focus on college. You need to learn how to be a proper wife." My name is Amanda Chen, and at 18, I watched my dreams get destroyed by the very people who should have supported them. I'd spent 4 years maintaining a perfect GPA, countless nights studying for the SATs, and endless hours on extracurricular activities, all while helping raise my younger siblings and managing our household because that's what girls are for. Dad stood in the doorway, arms crossed, nodding in approval at Mom's actions. "Listen to your mother, Amanda. This rebellious phase needs to end. Michael needs your help with his homework anyway. He's applying to colleges next year." Michael, my 16-year-old brother, was their pride and joy. Every achievement of his was celebrated, every dream encouraged. Meanwhile, my accomplishments were seen as distractions from my real purpose, being a future housewife. "But I got a full scholarship," I whispered, my voice trembling. "It wouldn't cost you anything." Mom's hand connected with my cheek before I could react. The sting was immediate, but the emotional pain cut deeper. "Ungrateful girl. Costs us nothing. What about the cost to your brother's future? Who will help him prepare for his exams? Who will cook and clean while I'm at work?" I touched my cheek, feeling the heat from her slap. 10 years of straight A's, president of the debate club, editor of the school newspaper, all reduced to nothing because I was born a girl in a family that saw education as a male privilege. That evening, I sat in my room, staring at my reflection in the small mirror above my desk. The red mark on my cheek had faded, but the weight of my parents' expectations felt heavier than ever. On my desk lay dozens of college brochures, carefully hidden in my calculus textbook. Harvard had been my dream, but I'd also been accepted to Yale, Princeton, and Stanford, all with scholarships. My phone buzzed with a text from Mrs. Patterson, my guidance counselor. "Did you get the Harvard letter?" I couldn't bring myself to respond. Mrs. Patterson had been my biggest supporter, helping me secretly apply to colleges, writing recommendation letters, and believing in me when no one else did. She knew about my parents' views, but had encouraged me to try anyway. "Amanda," Mom's voice carried up the stairs. "Michael needs help with his chemistry homework." I quickly wiped away my tears and hid the other acceptance letters deeper in my textbook. As I headed downstairs, I caught a glimpse of the torn Harvard letter in the kitchen trash. Mom had made sure to pour coffee grounds over the pieces, a final act of destruction. Michael sat at the kitchen table, barely looking up from his phone as I approached. "I don't understand ionic bonds," he muttered, pushing his textbook toward me. I sat down beside him, forcing myself to focus on explaining concepts I'd mastered 2 years ago. Mom watched from the counter, a satisfied smile on her face as she prepared dinner. This was the future she wanted for me, eternally in service to my brother's success. "Good girl," she said, patting my head like I was a dog performing tricks. "This is where you belong, Amanda, not filling your head with foolish dreams of college." I nodded silently, but inside, something had shifted. As I watched Mom return to her cooking and Dad reading his newspaper in the living room, I made a decision. They could tear up my acceptance letter, but they couldn't tear up my determination. That night, after everyone had gone to bed, I pulled out my laptop and composed an email to Mrs. Patterson. "Need your help. Parents destroyed Harvard letter. Please don't give up on me." Her response came within minutes. "Come see me first thing tomorrow. We'll figure this out." For the first time since watching my acceptance letter get destroyed, I felt a glimmer of hope. My parents might control the present, but they wouldn't control my future. Not anymore. The next morning, I left for school an hour early, telling Mom I had debate club preparations. She barely looked up from helping Michael with his breakfast. Her perfect son couldn't possibly be expected to pour his own cereal. Mrs. Patterson was already waiting in her office, her face etched with concern. "Show me everything," she said, closing the door behind me. I pulled out the remaining acceptance letters I'd managed to hide. "They'll destroy these too if they find them," I said, spreading the letters across her desk. Yale, Princeton, Stanford, each one offering a full scholarship, each one a potential escape route. "Amanda," Mrs. Patterson leaned forward, her voice low and urgent. "What your parents are doing isn't just wrong. It's abuse. Educational suppression is a form of control. I'd never thought of it that way. In our traditional household, it was just the way things are. Girls serve, boys succeed. Simple as that. I have a plan, Mrs. Patterson continued, but you'll need to be brave. She pulled out a folder from her desk. I've contacted Harvard's admissions office. They're willing to send all future correspondence through me. We can secure your spot without your parents knowing. My heart raced. But how would I pay for books? Housing? Mom checks all my bank statements. Remember that summer job you had at the library? She smiled. The one your parents approved of because it meant you could help Michael with research? Well, the head librarian and I have been saving your paychecks in a separate account. You have enough for your first semester's expenses. Tears welled up in my eyes. While I'd been feeling alone and trapped, these women had been creating an escape route for me. But then reality hit. Mom will never let me leave. She'll lock me up if she has to. That's why we need to be strategic, Mrs. Patterson said, pulling out a calendar. Orientation starts August 15th. Your brother has that big soccer tournament the weekend before, right? I nodded, beginning to understand. Your parents will be gone all weekend for his tournament. That's your window. Over the next hour, we planned everything. Mrs. Patterson would help me secretly pack and store my essential belongings in her garage. I'd gradually bring things to school, a little at a time, so nothing would look suspicious at home. The hardest part was pretending everything was normal. Each day, I played my role perfectly, helping Michael with homework, cooking dinner, being the dutiful daughter. Mom seemed pleased with my acceptance of my place. See? She said one evening while I was washing dishes. You finally stopped this college nonsense. A daughter should know her place. I smiled weakly, thinking of the acceptance confirmation letter hidden in Mrs. Patterson's office. But my careful planning hit a snag 2 weeks before my planned escape. While cleaning my room, Mom found a Harvard brochure I'd forgotten about, tucked between my mattress and bed frame. What is this? She screamed, waving the brochure in my face. Still holding on to these ridiculous dreams? Dad came running at her shouts. When he saw the brochure, his face darkened. I thought we dealt with this, he growled. It's old, I lied quickly. I just forgot to throw it away. Mom wasn't convinced. You're grounded until further notice. No school activities, no library, just home and school. We clearly can't trust you. My heart sank. The grounding threatened to destroy everything Mrs. Patterson and I had planned. How could I finish preparing for Harvard if I couldn't leave the house? That night, I sent a desperate text to Mrs. Patterson. They found a brochure. I'm grounded. Everything's ruined. Her response gave me hope. Nothing's ruined. We adapt. We overcome. The next day at school, she showed me the revised plan. Instead of gradually moving my things, we'd have to do everything in one night, the night before Michael's soccer tournament. It was riskier, but it was my only chance. Are you sure you want to do this? Mrs. Patterson asked, seeing the fear in my eyes. I thought about my mother's words, girls don't need education. I thought about my brother's entitled attitude, the way my parents poured everything into his future while destroying mine. I've never been more sure of anything, I replied, my voice stronger than I felt. The night before Michael's soccer tournament arrived faster than I expected. I lay in bed, fully dressed, listening to my family's preparations for their weekend trip. Mom's voice carried up the stairs, listing all the things Michael needed for his big day. Are you sure you'll be okay alone? Mom asked, poking her head into my room. Not out of concern for me, but worried her house wouldn't be properly maintained in her absence. I'll be fine, I said quietly. Good luck at the tournament, Michael. The moment their car disappeared down the street, I sprang into action. Mrs. Patterson's car was waiting 2 blocks away, just as planned. Within minutes, we were loading the few boxes I'd managed to secretly pack into her trunk. Your parents will be back Sunday evening, she said as we drove to her house where the rest of my things were stored. By then, you'll be settled in your dorm at Harvard. Everything was perfectly orchestrated. Mrs. Patterson had arranged for an early check-in at the dorms. A friend of hers would drive me to Cambridge first thing in the morning. All my documents, including my birth certificate which I'd slowly gathered over the past months, were safely in my backpack. But life has a way of throwing curveballs. As we finished loading the last box from Mrs. Patterson's garage, my phone lit up with Mom's face. My hands shook as I declined the call. Then came the text. Michael's tournament was canceled due to weather. We're coming home. Answer your phone. Amanda, where are you? Mrs. Patterson saw the panic on my face. We need to leave now, she said firmly. Your flight's in 3 hours. This is your only chance. The drive to the airport was the longest 30 minutes of my life. My phone kept buzzing with increasingly angry messages from my parents. Then came the final text from Mom. If you're doing what I think you're doing, don't bother coming back. At the airport, Mrs. Patterson hugged me tightly. Your parents might not be proud of you, she whispered, but I am. Go show the world what you're capable of. 10 years later, I stood in front of a packed auditorium at Harvard Medical School, delivering the commencement speech as the youngest female department head in the school's history. The irony wasn't lost on me. The girl who didn't need education was now Dr. Amanda Wilson, pioneering researcher and educator. My speech was being broadcast live on several networks. I knew my parents would be watching. They always watched my TV appearances now, telling their friends how they'd always supported my dreams. Education isn't just about books and degrees, I said into the microphone, my voice steady. It's about breaking free from limitations others place on you. 10 years ago, I was told that girls don't need education. Today, I'm telling every girl out there, your mind is your most powerful asset. Don't let anyone take that from you. The applause was deafening, but I wasn't finished. And to the parents in the audience, your daughter's dreams aren't a threat to your son's success. They're not a disruption to your plans. They're a promise of something extraordinary. After the ceremony, my assistant handed me a note. My parents were waiting outside the auditorium. For the first time in 10 years, I was going to face them, not as their obedient daughter, but as Dr. Wilson, the woman who proved them wrong. Mom was crying. Dad looked uncomfortable. We're so sorry, Mom started, but I held up my hand. Save it, I said calmly. I didn't succeed because of you, or in spite of you. I succeeded because I chose to believe in myself when you wouldn't. I turned to leave, then paused. Oh, and Mom. Girls don't just need education. They deserve it, every bit as much as their brothers do. Walking away from them felt different this time. 10 years ago, I'd left in secret, scared and uncertain. Now, I walked away with my head held high, my heels clicking against the marble floor, knowing that somewhere, a young girl might be watching this broadcast, finding the courage to fight for her own dreams. Mrs. Patterson, now retired, still has my Harvard acceptance letter, the second one they sent through her. It hangs framed in her home office, a reminder that sometimes the biggest act of love is helping someone break free.